Yo, what's going on, world? It is CD Rome back with another episode of Watch Your Narrative Podcast, the original Watch Your Narrative Podcast. We are back in effect. Um, it's the NBA Finals, so we got quite a bit to kind of unpack to uncover. We really wanted to really come out here and talk about. I mean, this has been a crazy season, a lot of unexpected twists and turns. I mean, before the season starts, I don't think any of us would have predicted that. Maybe the Thunder, but definitely not the Pacers. At least in my estimation, in my book. So, but with us, man, we got Dave. What's up, Dave?
All right. All right. Good to be here,
Welcome
man.
back,
Ready
brother.
to get,
Welcome
yeah,
back.
yeah. Ready to get it
Yes,
on. Let's
sir.
go.
And we got my boy Hoop Lover in the building.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on, brother?
Good to
And
be
Ace
here.
Boogie.
What's going on, man? Glad to be back, man. Ready to talk some sports.
Yeah, man. What hat is that?
It's Auburn, man. I gotta represent, man.
Oh
It's a little
gosh.
something sports related, man.
Okay,
Beautiful.
okay.
Yeah,
Beautiful
Okay.
yeah.
logo.
Oh
Can't go
gosh.
wrong with that. Can't go wrong with that.
So
Go
listen,
Buckeyes.
we're gonna get straight into it, right? So let's go back a little bit. Of course, the NBA final starts very soon, but let's talk about the Eastern Conference Finals and also the Western Conference Finals. And obviously, one thing that I wanted to touch on and get y'all point of view on was what y'all thought about the East. And then of course, we had some unexpected things. We can talk about the Celtics as well. We can talk about the Knicks, the Bucks. I mean, there's quite a few twists that we thought would have probably made it to the finals, but Pacers was able to get their way out of there. But I want to start with the Knicks because, of course, headlines came out today that they fired Coach Tibbs with a lot of which I mean there was a lot of noise around that with people saying that they should do that. But I want to get y'all thoughts on that. And of course, I gotta go to the New Yorker, the native New Yorker. Uh, what's your thoughts? What do you think the Knicks need to do in order to get better to make it to the finals next year? Do you think, and also, do you think that they made the right move with letting go Tibbs?
So I'll start with the Thibs, right? So I think Thibs is a year late. I think we should have chose a different coach last year. I think last year should have been the last year for Thibs, and we should have went a different vision this year. We might have fared a little differently. We might be in the finals right now playing against Oklahoma, but that's not the case. So me hearing the news that Thibodeau is has been relieved of his duties. They didn't say fire him, they said relieved. So I'm thinking that he still might, in some way, some capacity, might still be involved with the Knicks. That's just my assumption, just by the wordage that they used as far as talking about his him no longer being the coach. But so there's a couple of reasons why I feel this way. So let's start with the CBA. So the CBA going forward, it's very harsh. I mean, it's not forgiving. It's gonna be tough
Yep.
for teams to be able to do what Golden State did, right? Be able to have three All-Stars and four Hall of Famers on one team. That's not gonna happen anymore. So you have to kind of think of that and say, hey, we have to be able to play our young players. Tibbs doesn't do that. Tibbs relies on veterans. And in order to do that, you're going to have to go to the market and find some veterans and be able to have the money to be able to sign them. That's not going to happen either. So what does that mean for players like Pacome Dadier, Tyler Kolek? That means that Tibbs is not they're not going to get the chance. And we saw that in the playoffs. I mean, yes, he did expand his roster more than usual. He usually plays about if if that 7 players, and he kind of played 9 players. But throughout the season, he barely played Tyler Kolek. He barely played. He Calm Daddy. I mean, he might have played a couple of 2 3 minutes if it was a blowout, but that's about it. So what does that tell me is that he's not going to play these young guys. So I'm thinking that's the reason why they decided, hey, we need to move on from Thibs because we need to make sure that hey, we have a coach out of here that's going to play these young guys. And I think that another reason is he lost the team. You can't tell me that's a good thing when you're going to game one of the playoffs and you already having a players only meeting. That's not a good sign, right? So, and then that wasn't the only players only meeting throughout the playoffs. I mean, they had several. So for you to be having play in the playoffs and still having to have player only meetings, that's not a good look, right? So I felt that hey, it's about time. Again, he didn't really play too much, and the decisions that he made were kind of head scratchers. Cameron Payne, too much minutes. Deuce McBride should have played more. Mitchell Robinson didn't play enough minutes. Why wasn't he in the fourth quarter? He gives you the best defensive option because y'all can see that Towns can't guard. I mean, he can't guard a garbage can. I mean, the man can't move.
Yeah.
So him not playing Mitch in the fourth quarter, him not playing Deuce McBride, and not playing DeLon Wright. DeLon Wright's a better defender. Yes, Cameron Payne can at times make some threes, but I mean, he's all over the place. I can't trust him. And why is he playing instead of Deuce, which is a better defender and still is able to give you some threes? So those are the reasons why I felt like Thibs pretty much had lost the team and pretty much lost the confidence from management. So I feel like it was due, and I hope that they go and find someone that's gonna have the right philosophy and is gonna be able to play these young guys. So that's my feeling on that.
So, and of course, I do think that Coach Tibbs was, even with him playing more people, we can go back all the way to his Chicago days. Everybody feels like he ran, you know, um, Derrick Rose into the ground. Jimmy Butler did complain as well about minutes. He had some injuries in Minnesota where there were some nagging things where he really, really runs guys into the ground. But going in, I want to go to Boogie. I want to ask you the same question about Coach Tibbs, but also kind of talk about, because I know you followed that you were a huge Derrick Rose fan, so you've been following Tibbs for a long time. Um, what do you think? Because this year, I agree with Dave that man, he expanded his rotations a lot more than what he normally would do. Do you think he was pushed a little bit by front office, or was that or maybe the media? Like, what are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, his reputation, coming from Chicago, going to Minnesota, then going to the Knicks. I mean, when he was there at the Knicks his first year or two, he was also, I mean, they were talking about, his rotation. He wasn't going very deep into his bench. So I do agree to a certain point, uh, with Dave that, Tibbs has got to learn to expand, his rotation. And for the most part, he did this season. There was a lot of players that he did play this season. But ultimately, I think Tibbs is more on the old school side in that, you go down with what got you there, I guess is what makes sense, So I think Tibbs was a little stubborn with the rotations. Um, and honestly, I mean, with Tibbs is the type of coach that, you know, even though his rotation is not very deep, he can win games. And ultimately he got them very far into the playoffs. I don't know if this roster this season without Tibbs makes it this far. Now, I do kind of agree. We were talking about it offline a little bit. I do kind of agree with Dave was saying that, Tibbs may have gotten all he can get out of the rotation that he was using and maybe get somebody else to kind of get him over the hump. But ultimately, I think that with Tibbs this season, I think Tibbs did the best job that he could possibly do. We'll talk about the finals matchup, but just a little preview on my thoughts on it. The OKC and the Pacers go relatively deep too in their benches. So I think there's a new wave of basketball now that's coming where, they're not going just 7 deep, 8 deep. You're talking about the Pacers. I think, man, me and you say we're talking. I mean, brother, they were going sometimes 10, 11 deep into the benches. So, Tibbs is old school. He did get them very far. I mean, I don't think the New York fans, should be upset over Eastern Conference Finals. True enough, I think it kind of stings because nobody really counted the Pacers as a finals participant. But I mean, to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, I mean, that's a win in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. What you think, lover, hoop lover?
Well, we talked about it a little bit. My initial reaction to it was, it better work.
Hmm.
Um, I
Do you think
they,
they jumped the gun?
yeah, David made some good points. As we talked about it offline. there are times where it just gets to be stale. It's happened to the best coaches across multiple sports. Belichick, Bobby Cox with the Braves. Like it just it
Hey,
gets
hoop lover.
yeah,
Rick Carlisle in Dallas.
in Dallas, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it gets to a point where you are, you're just beating a dead horse and the players are tuning you out. I think that happened in Denver, honestly, with Malone, which, I think would probably be their best option. The Knicks, if they're going to replace Tibbs at this point, when you are really on the verge of getting to the finals, I think it better be somebody like Michael Malone, because you're going to need a coach that's going to command a certain amount of respect in the locker room instantly. You're not going to have time to build that rapport, build that trust factor. And no, you need somebody that can walk in that locker room right now, and all the guys, from the first guy from Jalen Brunson all the way through the last guy on the roster, automatically respect it and they're bought in, because this team, I think, is built short of maybe a tweak here and there with their roster. They're really built to get to the finals, like within the next year or two. And they need to maximize that window. They don't really have time to screw around with, our coach, we don't know what our identity is. You don't have time for that. These guys are making a lot of money. Jalen Brunson gave you so much flexibility, structuring his contract the way he did. They need to take advantage of it while they can. And you got to think too, Boston is not going to look the same next year.
Nope.
The window for the Knicks to get to the finals is as advantageous. They got as advantageous a road to the finals now that they've had in forever. I think they still probably would have beaten Boston even with or without Tatum getting hurt, but that made it easier. I mean, let's be honest. It made it a lot easier when he went down. That's one less great player you have to go through, and they're not going to look the same next year. He's not going to be available probably all of next year. I don't think Jaylen Brown or Derek White, I don't think any combination of those guys are not going to be there next year. And I think Porzingis, they're going to have a lot of roster because they can't afford everybody.
Yeah.
It's like to David's earlier point, that apron now and that CBA penalizes you for having so many max guys. You can only pay so many. So I think the Knicks have to get it right with whoever they replace. I would tend to believe that if you're going to make this move now with Tibbs, that you have your replacement ready to go. And to me, it should be Michael Malone.
Oh, yeah. He should be number one on the board. Yeah.
Isn't he a New York guy? Isn't he from New York?
Yeah, he sounds like he's from
Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do got a question for you, and this is to say it if you don't mind me asking.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the reason for Tibbs firing was because there's a Mike Malone available?
Yeah, you don't make that move that fast, because I think that's what B mentioned. Like, it was quick. It was very quick. You make that move this quick, so that way you can get him before someone else does. Mike Malone will not be on the market a very, very long time. He's a champion. I mean, a great coach, been coaching for a very long time, and I think he can put a great defensively, they already got the schemes. They got that. I think what he'll add offensively, he may be able to maybe even possibly unlock a different version of Cat than what we've seen before. Not defensively, but just offensively. But I'm going to say this too.
Okay.
Because I think that if we really think about it, I don't think people realize like how close the Knicks were to an NBA Finals. We're talking about if it wasn't for game 1, Neesmith, like that series would have been flipped. And instead of being down 3-2, New York would have been up 3-2 going into Indiana if they hadn't already knocked them out already. So I don't know if let's talk about like what do they need to do structurally? Like what pieces do they need to add? Do they need to trade? Because I've heard people talk about a Giannis possible trade. What do y'all think?
I've seen people talk about that. You have to overhaul. Okay. A Giannis trade is gonna involve him going somewhere from his side of it where I can compete. But what are you giving up? If you're the Knicks, you have to give up so much on your roster, on a roster that was, a couple of defensive stops away, an adjustment here or there away from possibly playing Game 7, tonight or last night?
Tomorrow.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
So
yeah, last
you
night.
would have had Game 7, tomorrow, I think, or
No,
excuse
last
me.
night. Yeah.
So I really don't think the Knicks need to panic and start just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You know what I mean? You are there. I don't think I don't think you're gonna get much different version of Cat. Um, you People say, okay, he's 7 feet, he needs to get in the post, and that's not his game. That ain't what got him to the NBA.
Right.
You're not
They
gonna
ain't would
have
have got him to the finals. I mean, to the Eastern Conference
yeah,
Finals either.
it's not what's gotten him to the NBA. He's a good player. I think starting to try to tinker with him and tell him to do things he's not comfortable is a disaster waiting to happen. You just need him to get a little more focused defensively and kind of know what he's doing. I don't think it's effort with him. I just think he's not somebody who's been asked to really play defense. And so you need to get that out of him. Offensively, you need to just tweak your scheme a little bit so that you're not putting so much on Brunson's shoulders
Right.
and saying, hey, here's the ball, go isolate, make something happen. Because Indiana showed that's not going to work, especially once you get to the playoffs where teams have 2 days to prepare and watch film as opposed to a back-to-back where you've flown from one city to another one. And, it's different. It's a different animal in the playoffs. And I think Indiana exposed that because, again, they go, like you said, 10, 11 deep. OKC goes deep. All these teams play a lot of guys, and you just need to manage that a little bit better. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think
nothing
anything
major.
drastic.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I don't think the New York is right there. I mean, just like both of you guys mentioned. I mean, you're talking about one game. You're talking about maybe a possession or two. You're talking about maybe just asking Cat to do a little bit more defensive. He ain't got to be a defensive stalwart, but maybe
Yeah.
just asking him to be a little bit better defensively. When you think about Mike Malone, if that's who they decide to hire, I mean, Jokic is not a great defensive big. He's not a
Right.
rockstar, but he's
Right.
going to win with Jokic. So they got the pieces. It's
Mhm.
just, I wouldn't look at changing the entire roster. Now, if you can get like a Giannis, I mean, that could possibly be a game changer. But me, as as you guys know, I follow the Bucks. My problem with Giannis is Giannis sometimes to me don't know how to take a back seat offensively. When with Dame, there would be times where Giannis is trying to be point forward when Dame should be really bringing the ball up. Giannis it sometimes becomes so bullheaded going to the rim that he misses, people on the outside perimeter. And true enough, I mean, it wins you a lot of games, but I don't know if Giannis is going to be. Giannis is the type of player that you would want with Tibbs. I don't know if you want Giannis with the Mike Malone.
So who are you? But the thing about if Giannis is in New York, who's gone?
Oh, it's
That-
Cat for sure.
That's the question.
Yeah,
If
Cat.
Giannis-
It'll probably be Cat
gone.
and maybe like a McBride or somebody like. It's gonna be some young pieces going with that.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
get
The crazy
because
thing
if you
is
trade
that
for Giannis got multiple years left on his contract.
oh yeah, so the money got to match too. That's the biggest issue, and that's why you think Cat. Because I would prefer to see a Cat at the 5 and Giannis at the 4.
Yeah,
because
that
then
ain't
you
gonna happen.
got basically another Brook Lopez, or a guy that can shoot,
Yeah.
but you just won't be able to have that. So I'm gonna give the last word to Dave on New York, and then I want to move to some other teams here.
Yeah, I agree. Small moves, maybe a veteran guard, uh, another wing, and see unless you able to see what Pacome Daddy is going to give you. If he's gonna second year is going to be his come out year, then you don't need another wing. You pretty much got him on the team already. But you do need another guard. Give Brunson a break and have someone that can actually guard. I love Brunson, but man, he can't guard either. But the funny thing about Towns is when he was in Kentucky coming into the NBA, he was known as the defender on that Kentucky team.
Yeah,
And
he
who
can
was
block
the other
shots for
guy, the
sure.
other center, the other big that went to Philadelphia?
Okafor.
Willie
Okafor.
Stein. Willie Cauley
Wasn't
Stein.
Okafor.
Was it?
Yeah.
No,
He
no,
wasn't
Yeah,
on.
Willie Cauley-Stein. Yeah, he was in that.
I
Okafor
forget
was
who it
good.
was. The other,
Okafor was
but
good.
the other big in Kentucky was known as the offensive guy, and Towns was the defensive player on that team, which tells me that it's there. he has the ability to defend. It's all about the one. And he needs to lock in and say, hey, I'm gonna guard. Because he was doing it in Kentucky. So it's somewhere in there. It just needs to come out. So I agree. You don't want to change too much of the roster. You want to make a small move here and there. But for the most part, I think they made the right move by going a different route with a different coach. That's what you need to do.
Okay. So I want to switch it up a little bit because I want to go into the West, right? Which will bring us to, the Timberwolves because we're going to talk about OKC in the finals matchup a little bit later. But I want to, before I get to Minnesota, I really want to blend them and the Celtics together, talk about both of them at the same time. And the reason being is because what I watched from Minnesota and from Anthony Edwards is the same thing that I watched from the Celtics. Now these analytics are telling, players that you only take a three or a layup, and they are removing a major part of the game. Like the reason why Shea is so dangerous is because you don't know what he's going to do. He may decide to go to the rim, all the way to the rim. Then there's sometimes he may decide to just pull up for the mid. Anthony Edwards is not doing that, and you know that. So you just playing him tight and forcing him to drive, and he's going all the way to the rim. And the same thing was with the Celtics. The Celtics were throwing up all these threes and were missing, blowing 20-point leads. So do you feel or do you agree with me in a sense, or what is your take on the way the NBA and these analytic guys? Because we're all, we all come from the same era where the mid range was butter. We got the greats, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant. I mean, all these guys won titles shooting the mid range, and now they're saying that's a bad shot. What are y'all thoughts on that? Let me start with a hoop lover.
Yeah, I mean, it's all feast or famine. It looks great when it's going in. It looks great when the other team doesn't play defense. But again, when you get to the playoffs, first of all, in the regular season, you might play a great team one night, and then the next night you're playing a team that, if it's December, they may be, 5-20 already. They stink. So defensively, yeah, you're gonna get to the hole when you want to if you're Anthony Edwards. By the time you get to the playoffs, you're playing Oklahoma City, who defends, and they not just one guy. They got waves of defenders that they can send at you.
Yeah.
And that wears you down. He's 23, right? But you can be as young as you want, but if you keep running to a brick wall, you're going to soften that shoulder up eventually, and something's going to crack. And that's what you saw in this series. He's a great player. He's still going to make your mouth drop sometimes throughout a game. Multiple times a game, he's going to make a play where you're just like, man. But for the most part, Oklahoma City says, all right, that's cool. You do that. You shoot a bunch of threes. Even if you score 35, 40, 41, you might win a game by yourself. But in the NBA, you're not winning a series by yourself.
Exactly.
And they took away everybody else, and they put constant pressure on the offensive end, like you said, with Shea, with Jalen Williams. They put constant pressure on them to defend all over the floor. They had to defend them deep. They had to defend them at the mid-range. They had to defend. And then they were driving. And, there's been a lot of complaints about the fouls that Shea gets. Yeah, some of it. But it's a function of the game. And if you're going to, not defend, and you're going to let him start to get those calls early in the season and get them early in the series, when it gets tight, the referees are going to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's just how it works in basketball anyway. So I think Anthony Edwards, it was a bad matchup anyway for Minnesota. Seemingly it looked good on paper, but you really only had one guy that's going to consistently score. And I think that was him. And it bared out throughout the course of that series. And it's kind of the same way with the Celtics. It looked good as long as they were making them. But when they start missing, it looks bad. And they weren't as good defensively as they had been before as well. And I think that hurt them. You miss a lot of shots. That means you're giving up, especially threes, you're giving up a lot of long rebounds, a lot of runouts. You're not getting back in transition, and that's what happens. And the Knicks exposed that. Even before Tatum got hurt, they were exposing where Boston was weak, and you know, so yeah, they've got to learn to do it multiple ways and not just rely solely on what the numbers say to do.
Yeah,
In a certain
got to be some 3 levels
instinctual.
around some way.
Basketball is instinctual.
Yeah, yeah. What you think, Dave?
Yeah, they got to diversify, right? So I was watching YouTube channel. I'm not gonna say the name of the YouTube channel, but they asked Carmelo. Um, oh, Carmelo was talking about, in his last year in Houston,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And they asked him, and he was talking about how they were charting shots, and they were pretty much saying about 45 of our shots are going to be from three, 12 from mid
yeah.
range, and then the
Crazy
rest are going to be from layups.
layups. Hmm.
That's wow. That's crazy to me. That and
Mhm.
then the person that you want him shooting the mid range. Yeah, I guess the guard would be okay for CP to take those 12 mid range shots. But so you get angry at the man when that's what he does. But you don't want that. You don't want the mid range. You're pretty much saying that, hey, I'd rather you not as good a 3-point shooter, but
Not
I
spot
want you to
up.
take
Yeah,
3-pointers
yep.
instead of you going to the mid range, backing somebody down and getting a shot that way. That's crazy. That's wild that they actually at this point now they're charting shots. They're pretty much telling you, hey, this is how many shots you're gonna take from three. And that's where the NBA has gone. It's either gone one way or the other. Either you got a team that can't shoot threes, so all they do is go towards the basket, or you got the other end where they'll shoot 50 like Boston,
Yep.
60, 70 threes. And that's pretty much the game. And it's like it's not good for the eyes, first
It's
of all.
not. Yeah, I think
It's
that's
not
why the ratings are
appealing. It's not an
being
appealing
affected.
game,
Yeah,
right? And then second, that's where you get blown out or you win by 40,
Mhm.
right? When you're hot, you're gonna make those shots, and the other team's not gonna have a chance. But that's not appealing. That's not fun to watch. And like you said, growing up in watching the Bulls, watching the 90s, the 2000s Lakers, right? They had a balance of you still shot the three, but they didn't shoot at the clip they shoot it now. So
hmm,
Anthony Edwards is a great player. He's going to be great. But again, you got to diversify. You got to have some sort of mid-range. And I don't think these players they're not even teaching it in the lower levels. All they teach the three. And you see it in pickup games, you see it in college nowadays, you see it where they're coming
yeah.
down a 3-on-2 or 3-on-1, and what they do. They don't go to the shoot a layup or a dunk. They'll
Go straight
stand
to
at
the
the
corner
three and
three.
shoing a three. And then
See that?
and
We
then
see that when we play.
everything is fine.
We see
Right?
that
So
when we play hook. When we play
Yeah,
yeah,
pickup.
that's what I'm saying.
play
Pickup. That's
pickup.
what
Yeah.
people do.
Yeah,
They go
I
to a
run a
3-point
break.
line and make the big
and these
shot.
are average Joes. They probably shooting what 20% from the three, go
Mhm.
off the three, and
Yeah.
they,
Fifteen.
So
Yep.
yeah,
you
no,
got one guy that along with DeMar DeRozan is probably still playing one of the best mid-range guys. Well,
right.
Brunson is right there too, but he's short, so he's not as
Yeah.
tall, so he's not as effective as the other two guys. But they probably still playing probably the best mid-range players, and that's the reason why their team is great because they are a balanced team.
They're a
They're
balanced
able
team.
to shoot the
Yeah,
three, and they actually Oklahoma they rank as the lowest in amount of threes that they take, and
yeah,
it
Mhm.
shows, right?
and
So
yeah, and I'm really well. We'll talk about it, but I'm gonna give it to you 1 second, Boogie. And I think that number one, these are. I feel like the people in the front office, a lot, they're not they're not hoopers. They may have hooped.
I was just about to say that. That's
They
my
may
point.
have hooped, but I feel like they're more so just computer guys, number guys, and they're looking at these numbers because I went back and looked at every team in the last 20 years. The only team that has won like with just shooting an excess amount of threes is the Boston Celtics.
And the Warriors.
That's well, the Warriors also shot mid-range though. Because when I say excess, I mean the Boston Celtics, they didn't even really shoot
Mhm.
mid ranges at all. Like at least with um You had Sean Livingston, you had Andre
Sean
Iguodala,
Livingston,
you
I was about to
had
say, yeah.
any of those guys could shoot a mid. Kind of
David,
what
yeah,
Dave
David
said.
West, yeah.
They got people that in there you don't even shoot a mid. You better not even look at a mid range. So I'm sorry, but go ahead, Boogie. What were you about to go ahead?
Yeah, no. I mean, well, my point is exactly what you was about to say. I mean, just for lack of better terms, I feel like the analytics. I understand the analytics, but I mean, really, what we've got now is nerds, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
dictating what happens on the basketball court. And to make a football analogy, right? So if you look at the analytics of it, of course, passing gives you a better option uh, uh to score to move down the field, right? Because you get more yards per play off of a pass. But the reason why it's important to run the ball is to in order to make the defense honest, right? Because it opens up the pass game if you have a successful run game. And the problem that we have now, I think, with the analytics, to your point, like Anthony Edwards, Anthony Edwards actually has a pretty solid mid-range game.
Yeah.
He just doesn't exploit it because now he's shooting tons of threes.
Yeah.
But the mid-range game, to me, the best shot to take is an open shot, right?
Facts.
Because when you get to the playoffs, the problem is a lot of the fouls and stuff that you get going to the rim don't get called.
Mhm.
And so at that point, now you're wasting possessions where if you have a good open mid-range shot, to me, that if you practice a mid-range shot, and I'm going to use this person that we all know, Kevin Garnett, probably the amount of one step in mid-range shots, he probably might be leading the league in scoring of how many points that he probably left on the board by stepping in to make the mid-range shot. But that was his shot. That's what he practiced.
Yep.
So it was almost guaranteed. Once he shot that mid-range, it was going in. That's as good as a layup to me.
Yeah.
So if you practice those mid-range games, I mean, it opens up the layup, right? But if you are going to a game knowing that a team is either going to go for the layup or go for the three, man, dude, I'm telling you, as soon as they step into the 3-point line, what you have is a lot of teams just crashing in,
you're good,
waiting for the layup when you got an open, mid-range shot. So, I mean, we all agree. I mean, it's tough to watch because what they're doing now, I mean, honestly, that's why it's then ran over into the pickup games and just normal Joes because we can do what they're doing. And we may not hit at a high clip, but that's the type of offense that we're seeing on TV all the time. So if all it is just driving kicks, shoot, I mean, we feel like NBA players out there because we're doing the same offense that they playing.
Yeah.
Whereas back when Kobe was playing, even like necessarily, I say even with the teams with LeBron now and prior, you had some sort of offense where you were working around. It was fun to watch because you felt like you were looking at something special. Now, I mean, it's like I said, man, I can go to the gym. I can any random gym and see the same thing that we're seeing now. A bunch of 30-foot three-pointers that folks are not hitting or driving kicks.
Yeah.
Let me add one point. You made the football analogy, right? One thing running the ball does also is limit possessions for the other team. That keeps their defense on the field longer, and it keeps the clock moving. And so you're shortening the game for them. Now you're putting pressure on the others. Really a strategy to it because you're putting pressure on them. Hey, we got to score when we do get the ball, which forces you into mistakes, which forces you into bad decisions. And so then you're creating turnovers because, hey, we're limiting the amount of time that the other team has the ball. You see this spill over into every sport, right? Look at baseball. Nobody likes to see guys hit singles and doubles, right?
Right.
They want home runs, right?
Nobody bunts.
Nobody bunts. Everybody's swinging for the fences, right? And it looks cool. It sells tickets, but it's not built for the purist of the sport that they're watching. The baseball purists hate it, right? Basketball purists hate just the fact that, okay, if you shoot threes, that's fine. If you shoot, 25, lots of teams have shot threes. Phoenix Suns in the 90s, Seattle, Houston, they all shot a lot of threes, right? By comparison. Now it's 50 threes, 60 attempts. And you're only going to shoot at best 45% of them, right? So that means you're hitting less than half. In football, Who's getting paid? Do running backs get paid anymore? Nope. It's
Unless you're
the
Derrick Henry.
it's the left tackles who are protecting the quarterback. It's the quarterback and it's the wide receivers because that's what sells. So you're pandering to people. You're pandering
Casuals.
to casual fans of these
Mhm.
sports. I get it. It's a business, so I understand why they do it. But there's going to be some drop off in the quality of what you're watching because it's, hey, let's make it sexy and let's not, let's make it good. But it's ugly more often than it's sexy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
think
But that's what I say this though too, Hoop Lover. I think though we're gonna get to a point because we're almost seeing it coming back in football where when you look at the Ravens, when you look at teams like I'm sorry, like the Bills,
Yeah.
where there's more,
There's balance. You got to have balance.
yeah, they got more balance coming in. You know what I mean? And so I think what's going to end up happening with the NBA, we're getting some grumblings already, about the quality of the product because everybody's chucking up all these threes. I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to start seeing teams go back to the traditional way of playing basketball. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, like the problem that we have is there's only select few teams that have won shooting a whole bunch of threes.
Right.
But it seems like as soon as a team wins shooting threes, that's what everybody wants to do.
They can do it. Right.
Yeah.
But when you look back at the NBA history,
Right.
Really
that
look
ain't
at
never
it.
been the case.
Only a few.
It's
Oh.
never been the case because
Stephen Clay
I
did
think
it. Stephen Clay did it. Yeah, you ain't Stephen Clay. You got to
Yeah,
have
Clay,
and I,
right.
and
Clay.
and yeah, and but see, and
Well,
I
that
think
don't
I
work.
think what people miss though, even with Steph and Clay, is that
Clay,
they did not erase the mid range. Like
Nope.
Steph still took a mid, Clay
They
took a
both
mid.
had
Like those
great
guys
range.
still took mid ranges. Like they don't.
And
The
then,
team. I understand teams want to shoot threes. I get it. My
yeah,
issue is
3 is
when
more
you
than 2. I get
erase,
it.
when you completely tell your guys, kind of what Dave was talking about earlier. We only want you to take 10 mid range shots.
The
That is
Rockets. The
stupid.
Rockets.
The
Yeah.
Rockets never made it to the finals.
Yeah,
No.
and
With that, they never won.
You made a good point because when you mentioned that, I just thought about it. The teams that do follow analytics have never won.
They never won. The Celtics are literally the only team they're the only team that said we're not really taking mid ranges, and they won.
Well,
And then
yeah, you're right.
and they should have and we're finna jump right into the finals because I was gonna do we're gonna keep this going. And I was before the season, well not before the season, but during the season, once I realized how good the Thunder were, my picks were Thunder versus Celtics for the finals, which I think a lot of people probably was somewhere around. I know the Cavs was there, but I feel like the Celtics were the team to beat and the Thunder. I would have picked the Thunder to win. The reason why is because I looked at the Celtics and we already kind of talked about it. When they're on, man, they're on. But you got to win you got to be on 4 games. You got to be on 4 games. What's the Thunder's identity? Defense, turnovers, layups, mid-range, free throw line. You're going to be at the free throw line. So I'm like, if we're doing free throw line where you're going to shoot for as a team, 75, 80%, and then another team that historically is known to just have those nights where they blow 20-point leads. I mean, you think about it in the NBA, even in the regular season, the Celtics were up against the Cavs, blew a 20-point lead. I mean, and it's all because of you're hot 1 minute in the same game. You're hot, and then it takes 1 quarter, and you cool off, and you completely lose the game. So the 2 teams we have now are both teams that really they're 3 levels. They can hit you from so many different ways. They're deep. They are absolutely deep. So let's start with the Pacers because we haven't really discussed them that much. What do the Pacers need to do to overcome the Thunder? Because that's a tall task. I mean, I think they're both really good, but what do the Pacers have to do to overcome? Boogie, you want to kick us off?
That's such a great question because ultimately, me and you talked about this recently. The Thunder are a better version of the Pacers.
They are.
When you really think about it, the Thunder are a better version of the Pacers.
Yeah.
The the thing is, though, I keep trying to tell myself mentally, maybe like I keep discounting the Pacers. And the Pacers might be like, I don't know what about the Pacers where I just can't take them serious. But I don't know. I mean, when I
Yeah.
looked at the game 7, like that defense is really, really good. They got the same ability that the Thunder have in almost, switching,
Yep.
between 2 or 3 players. When you got those guys on the floor, they can switch almost, everywhere. I don't know, man. I think you're gonna need spectacular game. You're gonna need a spectacular game from Halliburton. If you get Pascal Siakam, if you get this past series, Pascal Siakam,
Yeah.
he can definitely give them a run for the money. But see, my thing is like when I look at the roster 1 through 5, I mean, Shea's better than Halliburton, in my opinion. Not saying Halliburton is
Hands down.
bad, but I just think Shea's just a better basketball player because
Yeah.
Shea
Yeah.
got more of a complete game.
Yeah, I don't think
When I
that.
look at Pascal Siakam, who will be their number 2 guy, I mean, Chet is such a great defensive player. I don't know if like Pascal
Maybe
can
a
really take him
washout.
over the hump. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just I don't know, man. Then you got Jay Will and I mean, I don't know, man. Like I want this to be a great series. I want this to be an exciting series, but I just don't see how the Thunder lose this game. Because both of them are both small market, and this, we're gonna. I mean, I'm just gonna throw this out. This is so great to me for the NBA because you got 2 small market teams in the finals.
Yep.
Both of them home court advantage is the same. I don't know, man. I just feel like the Pacers are a great team, but then you look, it's like they're looking at themselves in the mirror at their beautiful twin brother or twin
Yeah.
sister.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
don't.
Hey, go ahead, Hoop Lover. What do you think?
Well, to your point about the markets, we say that yes, we want different teams, we want new teams in there every few years. We don't want the same team, but the numbers show that I say we collectively as the basketball viewing public,
Yeah.
that we're liars. We're liars because we want to see LA, we want to see Boston, we want to see New York, we want to see Cleveland, Golden State. We want to see the same teams. So the numbers
Hold on. I want to push back on that.
Collectively, we're lying.
No, the only reason why it seems like that is because when you got big market teams, then of course you're going to have a concentrate
Yeah.
in that market watching that.
And more
But I'm talking
eyes.
about countrywide.
I'm telling you.
I feel like that's not. I don't.
Look
think
at
that's the case.
look at the ratings just for the Eastern Conference Finals versus what the Western Conference Finals were. It wasn't even close, and it's declined every year since when you didn't have Cleveland Golden State, because we complained because like, man, it's the same teams 5 years in a row. It's like it's getting boring now.
Yeah.
But those are the most viewed finals in the history of the sport. So somebody's lying. Us. And we're contributing to it because I want to see it. I like to see new teams every so often. But also, generally speaking, the public has shown that they don't want to see, even though these are clearly
it's skewed, though, Brandon. It's skewed.
Not really. Because
it is.
Everybody has a TV. You know what I mean?
But I think it's deeper than the big market teams, though. What I view it on is actually super teams. When you have it's almost like we watch movies and we want this super villain to lose. Like when you had Miami, it was we talking about everybody wanted Miami to lose.
People are gonna tune in
to see that turned into Golden State
or Cleveland or whoever it is. You're gonna, whether you love them or hate them, or you're just the casual fan in the middle who thinks basketball has innings. And you don't know any different. You're gonna tune in because, like my wife, right? Or my grandmother. My grandmother knows who Steph Curry is.
Yeah.
My grandmother doesn't know who Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is, even though he's a fantastic player. She doesn't know who Anthony Edwards or Tyrese Halliburton are. She doesn't know who those players. So generally speaking, the public lies to itself every time we're in this situation. But it's gonna be a great series. I think I'm kind of like you. I'm trying to find a path for Indiana to make this. I don't think it's really going to be close. I think it. I would be shocked if
That's
it
what I
went
don't
6
want to
games.
happen.
I would be shocked if it went 6 games. I
Yeah,
think it's going, but
that's legit how I feel. Like I feel
I
like
respect
we're gonna
Halliburton enough
yeah.
that but he's gonna be under so much. He's the engine for Indiana, right?
For sure.
He's gonna be under so much strain to keep that on the tracks because he's just gonna have waves of people in his face. He
Yeah.
can make plays, but then he's gonna have to go defend on the other end. Siakam's the same way. When you made the point about Chet Holmgren, Siakam's a great player, but he's got to also he's got his
Guard a
hands full on the
7-footer.
other end.
Yeah.
That's gonna be tough, and I just feel like Indiana doesn't have as many, even though they're deep, they don't have as many players that can flip a series as versus OKC as does OKC. I mean, they were able to. The transition defense, I think, is where you're gonna find the biggest difference. Indiana's gonna find the biggest challenge between what they face with the Knicks.
Exactly. Oh, absolutely.
The Knicks transition defense was really bad at times. And even off made baskets, like they would make a basket, balls at half court by the time they even turn around.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get that with with OKC. They're gonna be back, make or miss. So, and they take a lot of. And the last point I make, OKC spends a lot of time at the free throw line, in the mid range. So you're not getting long rebounds. You're not getting automatic fast breaks where the ball's coming off long, everybody's sprinting. They're getting back already. They're back in defense, in transition defense, because either they're making it or they're at the free throw line, or if they do miss it, it's a short miss where somebody's in position and they already got 3 or 4 people back. You're not going to get that, what you saw with New York versus OKC. So that will be interesting to watch for me. I really think it goes 5. I would be shocked if it went 6. So
I would love it to go 7.
What you think, Dave?
All right, so you guys remember 2001 playoffs?
I don't, but
yeah. Philadelphia 76ers.
Jog my memory, please.
And you remember 2000? Who went to the playoffs against the Lakers in 2000?
Sixers.
The Pacers.
No, Pacers.
Oh,
Pacers against the Lakers in 2000.
Yeah.
Right? So the Pacers were bound to make the playoffs in 2001 too, but they faced the Philadelphia 76ers. They beat them 3-1, but the Pacers were the better team. They should have won that series. They were able to get away from the Pacers. They beat Toronto. They beat the Bucks, and they played who in 2001?
The Lakers.
The Lakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sixers.
Yeah.
And were those games even remotely good games?
Other than the ones that
game one was
it wasn't even. Besides, I mean,
they weren't even.
Philadelphia was not supposed to be that team in those playoffs. Should have been anybody else but Philadelphia.
Yeah.
There was no matchup. That wasn't a matchup. That team reminds me of this team right here, where somehow, some way, they found a way. They got lucky. Well, not lucky, but they were fortunate that they faced a Bucks team that was hurt.
Yeah.
And they go and face a Cleveland team that was hurt.
Right.
And then they faced the Knicks team that was, I don't know what happened there, but the Knicks should have won that series. But somehow they made it to the finals. And it's going to be just like 2001. They're going to be overmatched. It's going to be a series that is not going to get a lot of hoopla because it's two teams that people barely care to watch, barely care they don't even know who the stars on those teams are. They're not really marketable. They're small market teams. You have some fans that'll be watching, but the casual fans that really watch because they don't really know the players and they're not going to watch these finals. They're not. Just thinking about Halliburton has to have like monster games in order for them to even have a chance, because That's the only way that I see a potential win if if Halliburton is playing out of his mind.
Well, you know
Because
what?
what's his name? Their power forward,
Siakam.
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 Siakam, yeah.
That's a wash right there. Their center,
Turner.
the dude
Yeah,
that
Turner.
plays
Yeah.
Miles
with
Turner.
Legos,
Miles Turner.
Miles Turner.
I would
That's
tell
wash.
you, yeah. I
I
don't
mean,
mean to
there
cut
is
you
not.
off.
I mean, who's gonna? I mean, Caruso. They're gonna have their hands full with
I forgot about
Caruso.
him.
I
God.
mean,
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous. They have so many
but
defenders
Yeah.
out there that they
I
can
forgot
go
Wiggins.
at
about
the Pacers.
Caruso.
yeah,
Yeah, Wiggins
but I'll
is
say
good
this
too.
though.
Off the
I'll say
bench.
this though. I'll say this though too. When you talk about how if Halliburton has a monster game, Halliburton's monster game is 30 and 15.
Yeah.
Like that Halliburton is like one of the true point guards where he's getting other people involved.
Yeah.
Because
He's not
Halliburton,
gonna be able to do
I
that.
don't see I don't
Not the
see
15.
Halliburton going off for like 40, 50 points.
No.
But he
That's,
if he gives you 20 and 10, 20 and 12, you know, we're talking those are probably gonna be some close games.
The problem.
Because you got to be scoring for him to get assists.
Yeah, no, I agree with like everything everyone said. And I think we're all in the same boat. We want to give the Pacers because it is very true what JP said. Like they're very close in a sense of the structure of their team, but OKC at most of their positions are just even if
Yeah.
it's slightly better, they're just better. Like when you think about Nembhard, like I love Nembhard and Neesmith, right? I love those guys are really, really good. But are they better than J-Dub? I don't think so.
That's
Alex Caruso comes off the bench, and I don't think Nembhard is better than Caruso.
But Caruso, I don't know. I think Naismith is better than Caruso.
I said Naismith. I know
agree.
Naismith. I agree. I'm talking about, but Nembhard, you know,
Oh,
that's
okay, I'm sorry,
the light skinned guy.
I don't agree with the premise that they are a very similar team. They're very different. Pacers team is the team that wants to run.
Yeah.
OKC plays half court game.
Yeah.
They play a half court.
No, they run too. No, but
they run.
force turnovers.
They
and
run.
they run.
Run, but they play a half court game.
Yeah, Indiana.
If you play in a mid range, you have to have a half court game.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is Indiana.
They don't really have a guy that really.
They have a really.
They don't
good
have a
half-court
superstar
game.
on that team. There's no superstar on the Pacers.
Yeah, but
at the end, at the fourth quarter, who's getting the ball?
Tyrese.
It's gotta be.
Tyrese. No. OKC, who's getting the ball?
Oh yeah. Yo, we got two of them really.
And he's going to slow down the game. And
They got
he's
two.
going to go to the free throw line. He's
Yeah.
going to go to the free throw line.
Yeah.
The Pacers don't do that.
Well, I mean, OKC's got options too when it gets close.
Yeah, they
For a
do.
quarter, they don't have to. That's the thing that scares me about
That
this.
is.
They don't have to rely on SGA.
Yep.
That's a luxury that, hey, we get bogged down, get it
But
to
they slow down the game.
If
But they
J-Dub
got-
is
they slow
cooking,
down the game.
Jay
If
Williams,
J-Dub is
they got
cooking,
Williams,
yeah.
and really, and Chet can hit. So, like, I
And
think
Hartenstein too. Hartenstein can hit
that's
that
what I'm
little.
saying. Hartenstein
shot.
is.
Yeah.
There's too many matchups, and I think I look at it this way, if OKC plays its best game,
Yeah.
and Indiana plays its best game, they're still worlds apart. It would
I
it would
disagree.
take OKC playing a C- game, and Indiana's going to have to play an A+ game to have a chance to win.
They're both of
honestly,
their
I will
best
say this,
games.
though.
Both of
I
their
will
Any
best
team that would have
games.
came out of the West,
I think
they
OKC
would have
wins
lost.
by
Would have
3
been
or 4.
Timberwolves. Would have been OKC. Would have been the Nuggets. If the Nuggets be in the finals against the Pacers, who's winning?
Yeah, I think the West
Nuggets.
is that much better.
If-
No, but
if there's the Timberwolves, who's winning? Timberwolves.
but here's where
I
I'm at to
disagree
push
with the
back.
Timberwolves, though.
This where I'm at to push back just a little bit. I will say, and I'm trying to think now. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. And for the Thunder, who did the Thunder play on the way to the finals? Who did they play in the first round? Who did the Thunder play in the first round?
The first was it Denver?
No. They played Denver the second round.
Who was that?
Did they play the Lakers?
No, that was Minnesota.
No.
Minnesota played the Lakers.
Oklahoma City played.
Hold on, let me look at it.
Was it
Was it the
Because
Clippers?
the Clippers?
Was
No.
No, Denver played the Clippers.
Yeah.
Who are we leaving out?
Golden State.
No, Minnesota. No, Golden State played Houston first.
Yeah.
Houston. Man, who?
It-
Like, who am I missing?
Who
Like,
is-
for
I
real.
guess nobody
I'm
watched
trying-
that series.
Yeah, I gotta. Yeah, it
What?
was the.
I guess nobody watched that series.
I
No,
know.
I'm looking. It was the Grizzlies. Grizzlies.
Oh, that's why.
Memphis.
That's
Memphis.
why.
Yeah,
That's why.
Memphis.
Hey,
That
man.
seemed
Okay,
like
all
6 months ago.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
They played the
That was
Grizzlies.
6 months
They
ago.
played the Grizzlies. They played the Nuggets.
Yeah.
And then they played the
Timberwolves.
Timberwolves. Right
Yeah.
now, this is where I'm gonna push back. Is the Pacers this entire playoff series have found a way to speed up the game
Mhm.
against everybody, and the Thunder have not played against a team like the Pacers that like to play fast.
Nope.
So I think, and this is more of my heart speaking than my mind. My heart is saying that maybe the Pacers can find a way to speed up the Thunder. Because the Pacers play very fast because they also force turnovers and they also push the pace off of made baskets too.
I will
So I'm
say,
hoping that if the Pacers can find a way, if the
I'll
Pacers can
say-
find a way to speed up the game, then
They're
I
gonna
think that
want
the
to.
Pacers have a
that's
chance. But
They're
the
gonna-
problem is
they're gonna want to do
OKC's also very good playing fast too.
They're very
So-
athletic.
That's what I'm
OKC is
saying.
very athletic.
Indiana's only path to winning this series is to speed up OKC.
They have
Yeah, and
to.
SGA getting hurt.
Saying it and doing it is two different things entirely. So saying it is one thing.
Yeah.
Being able to execute that is going to be completely different because and with Halliburton, if the whole he's got to have 20 and 15, 30 and 15. Yeah, that just keeps you shoveling water out of the boat, right? That's just keeping you from sinking. That's not putting you in position to really. That's putting you in a position to stay close. It's not giving you. That is not going to be the recipe for them to win. It's going to have to be more
Well,
balanced.
they're going to have to play
Now,
like that.
they
to
got to
have a
get
chance.
from a bunch of different places.
Look what they did to Jokic, one of the better
That's what I'm saying.
passing centers, and I mean he couldn't
It's crazy. But
he
they put
couldn't
Caruso.
he couldn't find
They put
someone to make
Caruso
a
on a
big
game
shot.
7, which
Yeah.
was crazy. But
But-
you know,
but-
I
So and we expect Halliburton to
yeah, no,
Have
but
to be-
Halliburton, I think Halliburton to me has earned throughout this playoff run to
Yeah,
like
I
take
agree.
him seriously. Like
Well,
the dude can hoop. The dude can hoop. But I think
I'll say Siakam is the
issue
reason why they're
the
the-
issue is
Yeah.
that OKC is such a well-rounded team. I think JP just mentioned like they can play fast, they
Yeah.
can play slow, and when the game does slow down, because the game will slow down, and I do think the Pacers will try. That's the only way. They have to push the pace. They can't play a half-court offense. But the other problem is that throughout these playoffs, they've always hunted a mismatch.
Yeah.
You can't do that with OK. There is none. Like you
Right.
can.
There's no Brunson, there's no Cat.
There's no Brunson. There's no Cat. There's no Darius Garland. Like like I said, we talked about the Bucks was injured. So like now you're going into a playoff series where as long as everyone is healthy, you can't hunt mismatches. And then the other problem, Mitchell Robinson just showed you
Yeah.
they have a real problem on the rebounds.
Yeah.
They have a real problem. So OKC knows that as
That's what
well.
they
So
do.
you got 2 7-footers, Chet, and you got Hardenstein. Man,
Yeah,
they're
Also
going
has
to
a
be
good offensive rebounder.
SGA
they're gonna
is
be crashing.
6'7". Was SGA
Yeah.
6'6"?
Yeah,
Hey, we
6'6".
took him last
Yeah.
year. We took
Yeah.
the Pacers to
That's
a
the
game
shortest
7
player, right? No,
with
what's about it?
Hartenstein as our center.
Say it again.
Last year we took the Pacers to a game 7 with Hartenstein as our center.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
but can I say this though? I know we got to end it soon, but whoever wins, they need to go ahead and ship a championship ring to Paul George, because without Paul George, none of this,
both of these
none
teams.
of, both of the teams, none of this
Paul
would
George catching
be
straight.
possible without Paul
Hey.
George, bro.
Hey.
It is crazy how many players are connected to Paul George.
Hey,
trade.
listen, he's
I mean,
the
that is-
sacrifice, man.
Man,
Talking
about
playoff P.
goodness gracious.
Yeah, no.
He could have never. That's the worst thing he could have ever said
Yep.
was name himself playoff P, because everything ends up being his fault. It's so
Everything, yes, because even going to Philadelphia, now they're like, man, this boy Paul George, man. They just,
man. First thing he
it's-
could have done was do that.
yeah.
You don't give yourself a nickname ever.
So it seems like everybody's picking Oklahoma. How many games? Dave, what you say? How many games? 5. JP?
All All right, my heart wants to say 7, but my mind, I ain't gonna lie to you, brothers. I think it's gonna be a sweep. I'm sorry, I'm going 4.
Mm.
I'm going. I gotta go 5, man. I wanted to say 6 just because I do think
Yeah.
it's always, there's always something that happens in the series that you didn't see coming. But just kind of like last year, I didn't really see Dallas stretching that series out too long, and that's kind of what happened. I think it's a similar situation with this, just different styles, but I think one team is, I think, markedly better than the other one. But,
Yeah.
Okay.
there's
But
great.
again, we keep
So we
the
say
Pacers.
4.
Yeah, the Pacers have
I'm
been.
going to say 5.
You
I'll
said
say
5. So okay. So I say 5 as well. But how do you think that? Like, how will those games play out? Like game 1 through 5, who wins
game,
what game?
I think,
What
okay,
games do the Pacers? What one game do the Pacers win? I guess that's a better
Back
They
at,
question.
back at
Game
home,
3, probably
game
game 3.
three, game
Pacers
three.
win game 4. They'll win game 4. OKC goes back home and closes it out.
Yeah.
I think it, I,
OKC's young,
I
so I'll
don't.
give
I
them
don't
game
think
three.
it's gonna be
it'll
like
be 3-0.
blowouts. I
No.
actually think that they're going to be
It's
great
gonna be close
games. I
games.
just think it's just going to be 4 great games.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
think
And
it'll be
yeah,
blowout.
but I do think the problem is that when it does like those great games, when we're talking about the problem with the Knicks is that Jalen Brunson was a little bit smaller. So even though he was cooking, I mean, he was really cooking in game 1,
Undersized,
they
yeah.
should have won. They can't. It's SGA just they can't do what they did with Brunson. Like SGA is a much taller guy. J-Dub is a taller guy. It's just so many different weapons that you can rely on. Now the other thing to really think about. The great thing is both of these teams are very young. They've
Right.
never been here before. So because if you had one experienced team like when Golden State went up against the Celtics, like you could see the experience kind of play a part. So you don't have that this series. But I agree with y'all. I say game 3. I say the Pacers
I
win
mean,
game 3. But other than that, I
just
mean,
to give you an idea, I mean, we, not advocating any kind of gambling or anything like that, but the point spread for game 1, 9.5 points.
mm.
For an
It wouldn't,
NBA Finals game, that's
That's a big spread.
but hey, but it wouldn't surprise me if that really happens though, because that
yeah,
not to mention I think JP there's the home court is crazy, both sides.
right.
Pacers and OKC, it's going to be loud. It's going to be
It'll
loud.
be rocking. It'll be rocking.
I'm just hoping that we get I mean, I said 5. I'm at most 6. I would not be surprised with 6. If it went 6 and they went into Indiana and beat them, it would not surprise me. But I'm sticking on 5. I just don't see Indiana could barely go into New York and win a home game, or away game rather. I don't see them going into OKC and
I'll
winning.
see.
Now I will say this.
I will say this. If it gets to 6,
I'll
It
say
may get
now.
to 7.
if it
I'm
gets to
calling
6
4
or
games.
7, it's gonna start. The pressure's gonna start to ratchet up on OKC. They don't end this early. They
Yeah.
can't
That's
screw around, because if
I think game 1 is going to be the telltale, because I think that Indiana has had the benefit of sneaking up on teams in game 1, because I think they've
Yeah.
won every game 1 in every series this playoffs.
so,
So I think that
They have
Indiana
actually.
has because and let's be honest, I don't think anybody in the NBA respects Indiana. I mean, it's just something about, I don't know if it's because
Obviously,
Halliburton got that funky
obviously
jumper.
overrated. I mean, they don't respect Tyrese.
It's something
Yeah.
about Indiana where people are just like
I
they're not
respect
supposed
them.
to be here.
I respect them. I respect. I just think that because at the beginning of the season, I was of the camp that OKC got to prove it to me. I don't believe in them until I see them actually do it. And
I don't respect them. They beat a Bucks that was injured.
well, injuries happen.
They're a bad
They
matchup for the
beat
Bucks, though.
a
I'm not gonna
Cleveland
lie to you.
Cavaliers
They
team that
are
was
an awful
injured.
matchup
So
for the Bucks.
Yeah, the Cavaliers was injured.
do I really
Really
hold that
bad.
to account?
Yeah.
They were beating the Bucks anyway. They were.
Do we
As
had
a
that
Bucks
number.
fan,
They had the
as
Bucks
a
number.
Bucks fan, yeah,
They were gonna beat the Bucks.
They were too deep. They were too deep. And now I will say, I mean,
Injuries
Dame,
happen.
Dame getting hurt,
Yeah,
that was a problem. But they're
Oh,
just a bad matchup for the Bucks, because I think the Pacers won the season series too.
Yeah, and they
It-
beat them the year before too. So I mean,
Yep.
you know,
So
it's-
Cleveland, okay, Cleveland. Cleveland, if
Cleveland had a
everybody is
game where they
healthy,
had 3 starters out.
Cleveland should have won that series.
Yeah,
Would have won that series.
Cleveland had one game where 3 starters were literally out.
Cleveland is
Yeah, I mean,
another.
You
literally,
can't.
they were running on fumes.
Yeah,
Cleveland is another. I'll believe it when I see it. You know,
yeah. Darius, I don't know if Darius Garland is a
good
great
team,
good player, should I say? But
good team, but
there's a
I
mismatch too.
just they had to prove it to me. Was never confident they would get to the even throughout the season. I'm just like, but they got to still play Boston. They still got to play New York. They still have to get through Indiana. Like I didn't believe in Cleveland to begin with, but that's here nor there because injuries are part of it. I mean, a lot of championship teams have benefited from an injury to an opponent. So that happens. You still got to go out there and make the plays. You got to win the games. You got to play against who's out there. But I do believe I respect Indiana, but I just think they're not. It's levels to it. You know what I mean? I think OKC is just really like
They'll
they
get
said.
exposed.
Whoever is coming out of the West is going to probably be. If it were either one of these teams, I think it would be favor against Indiana. I just think it's different
Okay.
level.
I think after the finals are over, we're gonna come back, and if we do one of these, we're gonna come back and say, yeah, Indiana should have never been going against somebody on the West. That was
So in
that was a mistake.
in the words of a guy who's been erased off TV, at least as of right now, SGA, PGA, LGA, OKC in 5. OKC in 5. Is that what you're saying? OKC in 5. OKC in 5. Well, fellas, we appreciate everybody tuning in. This is Watch Your Narrative. We'll catch you guys post finals.